You are 38. You have $420,000. Your friend Nate has the same salary. Nate has negative $85,000. Not $85,000, negative. The difference is not income. The difference is not a side hustle, not an inheritance, not a stock tip from someone's uncle. The difference is that 12 years ago, Nate bought a house and you did not. This is your life renting the same apartment for 12 years. You are 26. It is a Saturday in March. You and Nate drive to an open house on the east side of town. 3 bedrooms, small backyard, hardwood floors that somebody refinished recently. A real estate agent in a gray blazer hands you both a pamphlet. The pamphlet says $350,000. The pamphlet says, build equity, build your future. Nate walks through the house slowly. He touches the kitchen counter. He stands in the backyard, hands in his pockets, and says quietly, I could see myself here. He says it the way people say things they have been rehearsing for months. You stand in the same backyard. You take out your phone, you open the calculator. Mortgage payment on $280,000 at 7%, $1,860 a month. Property tax, $290. Homeowner's insurance, $130. Maintenance reserve, $250. Total, $2,530 a month. The pamphlet does not mention the last 3 numbers. Nobody's pamphlet ever does. You put the phone back in your pocket. Nate puts in an offer that afternoon. That evening you drive to your apartment. 1 bedroom, $1,100 a month. The kitchen is narrow enough that you can touch both walls if you stretch your arms out. The window above the desk faces a parking lot. The bathroom faucet drips every 11 seconds. You will stop hearing it before the end of the first year. You sit at the desk. You open a new spreadsheet. Left column, buy. Right column, rent. The monthly difference is $1,430. You add a third column. You label it invest the difference, 8%. You type in a formula. You drag it down 12 rows. You look at the number in the last row. You look at it a second time. Then you close the laptop. You do not tell anyone about the spreadsheet. Not because it is a secret, because nobody has ever thrown a party for a spreadsheet. You sign a 12-month lease the next morning. 3 weeks later, Nate posts a photo. He is standing in front of a house holding a key above his head. The caption says, homeowner, 87 likes, 14 comments. Congrats. So proud of you. Welcome to adulting. His uncle writes, now you're a man. You do not post a photo of your lease. Nobody congratulates a person for renting. Nobody writes, welcome to adulting when you hand a landlord a security deposit and a first month's check. The silence is not hostile. It is simply the sound the world makes when your decision does not count as a decision. You transfer $1,430 into a brokerage account on the first of the following month. You pick an index fund. You turn on automatic reinvestment. You do not check the balance until January. The apartment is quiet that night. The faucet drips. The parking lot is half empty under the streetlight. You are sitting in a room that belongs to someone else, wondering whether you just made the smartest financial decision of your life or the most invisible one. You are 28. The apartment has not changed, but the questions have started. Office kitchen, a Monday. A coworker named Dan is comparing mortgage rates the way people compare weekend plans. He turns to you. You looking at places yet? You say you are still renting. Dan nods slowly. He says, smart to wait for the right time. What Dan means is he assumes you cannot afford it yet. He is being kind about it. The kindness is what stays with you on the drive home. You are 29. Sunday evening, your mother calls. She does not say you should buy a house. She says, your father and I had our first home by the time we were your age. It wasn't much, but it was ours. Then she says the sentence, the one you will hear in different forms from different people for the next 9 years. She says, rent is just money down the drain, sweetheart. At least with a mortgage, you're building something. You do not tell your mother that Nate's mortgage payment last year was $22,000 and that roughly $19,000 of it went to interest. Not to principal, not to equity, to the bank. You do not tell her that Nate paid the bank $19,000 for the privilege of borrowing money, which is also money down a drain. A different drain. A drain with a mailbox and a front lawn. But a drain. That month, Nate's water heater failed. $2,200. Nate mentions it in the group chat the way homeowners mention repairs, with a sigh that is also a badge. Joys of homeownership, he types. 3 laughing emoji. Nobody asks what his emergency fund looks like after a $2,200 Tuesday. You are 30. Third date with a woman named Ava. A restaurant with cloth napkins. She asks what neighborhood you live in. You tell her. She asks, do you own or rent? You say rent. She says, oh, nice area though. There is no fourth date. You do not know if the apartment is the reason. You know it did not help. That night you sit at your desk. The brokerage account statement sits in your inbox. You open it. $87,000. You stare at it. $87,000 does not answer the question your mother was really asking. $87,000 does not help over cloth napkin. A house is loud. A brokerage account is silent. And the world pays attention to loud. You are 31. Her name is Jess. Jess drives a 10-year-old Subaru with a dent on the passenger door. Jess works at a nonprofit and packs her lunch 4 days a week. The first time Jess comes to your apartment, she does not look at the kitchen. She does not comment on the parking lot view. She walks to the bookshelf, pulls out a paperback, reads the back cover, puts it back. She says, I like this place. She means it. You are 32. A friend named Marcus buys a house. The housewarming party is on a Saturday in June. White wine, a tour of every room. Somebody says, great bones about the living room. Marcus stands in the backyard with his arm around his wife and explains his plans for a garden. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is talking about countertops and school districts and equity. On the drive home, Jess is quiet. Halfway back, she says, everyone was talking about their houses. A pause. When do we talk about ours? She is not angry. She is not giving an ultimatum. She is asking a real question, and a real question from someone you love is harder to answer than 100 judgments from people you don't. You say, I have a plan. She says, then show me. You do not show her that night. Instead, at 1 in the morning after Jess has fallen asleep, you pick up your phone. You open Zillow. You type in your city. You scroll. A 3-bedroom appears, $385,000. Good school district, hardwood floors, a backyard. You tap mortgage calculator. 20% down, $77,000. Monthly with tax and insurance, $2,680. You could take $77,000 from the brokerage account right now. You could be a homeowner by August. Your thumb hovers over Get Pre-Approved. You can feel the other version of your life behind the screen. A version where you stand in a backyard at a housewarming party with your arm around Jess. A version where your mother stops sighing. A version where Ava might have stayed for a 4th date. A notification slides down from the top of the screen. Monthly account summary. Brokerage balance, $147,000. If you pull out $77,000 for a down payment, $147,000 becomes $70,000. And the $70,000 stops growing at the rate $147,000 grows. That $77,000 left alone for 6 more years at 8% becomes $122,000. The down payment does not just cost $77,000, it costs every dollar that $77,000 would have become. You close Zillow. You put the phone on the nightstand. You lie in the dark. The faucet drips. You do not tell Jess about the screen you almost tapped. That same month, Nate does a cash-out refinance. He pulls $45,000 from his home equity. He calls it making the house work for me. He remodels the kitchen. He posts photos of the new countertops. What he does not post is that his mortgage balance just went back up to almost exactly where it started. 5 years of payments erased in one signature. But the countertops are beautiful. And beautiful gets liked. You are 34. Interest rates climb to 7.2%. This number means nothing to you. You do not have a mortgage. This number means everything to Nate. Nate's company opens a position in Denver. Same title, $22,000 more per year. Nate does not apply. You ask why over lunch. Nate sets down his fork. He says he cannot sell the house. The market in his area has gone flat. If he sells now after the agent's 6% closing cost and the balance from the refinance, he walks away with maybe $8,000 from a house he has been paying into for 8 years. He says, I can't move. He says it casually. He picks his fork back up, but his hand stays still for a moment before he starts eating again. You are 35. You are not stuck. A company in another city offers you a role, $15,000 raise. You give your landlord 30 days notice. You rent a new apartment, 1 bedroom, $1,250 a month. You move in a weekend. Total cost of relocating your entire life, $1,800. Nate is still in the same house. The roof has started leaking above the upstairs bathroom. The repair estimate is $14,000. Nate does not have $14,000. The refinance money is gone. He puts $3,200 of emergency patching on a credit card. The leak slows down. It does not stop. The house has started to smell faintly of something damp. Not unclean, but neglected. The smell of a problem a person is choosing not to see clearly. You do the math without meaning to. In 8 years of ownership, Nate has made roughly $178,000 in mortgage payment. Of that, approximately $150,000 went to interest, not equity, not wealth. Interest. He paid the bank $150,000 for the right to borrow money. The remaining $28,000 went to principal. Then he took $45,000 back out in the refinance, which means after 8 years of payments, Nate owes more on the house than the day he bought it, plus a leaking roof that costs $14,000 to fix. You are 36. You sit across from Jess at the kitchen table in your new apartment. Different city now, slightly bigger. The faucet does not drip. You open the spreadsheet, the same file from 10 years ago. You have been updating it every January. You add a new column. You label it Nate Estimated Position. You enter what you know. His purchase price, estimated payments, the refinance, the repairs, the taxes, the insurance. You subtract from the current home value. You turn the laptop toward Jess. She reads both columns. Yours and Nate. She is quiet for a long time. Then she says something you did not expect. She says, "I'm sorry I asked when we were going to talk about ours." You say, "Don't be sorry. It was the right question." She says, "No, it was everyone else's question. I was just the one carrying it." You are 38. It is a Thursday evening in October. Your phone rings. It is Nate. Nate's voice is different. Not sad, tired. The specific kind of tired that comes from carrying something too heavy for too long and having just set it down. Nate says he and his wife are talking about selling, but selling means paying the agent and fixing the roof first because no buyer will close on a house with an active leak. And once you subtract the repair, the agent's fee, the closing costs, and the remaining mortgage, the number is not in their favor. Nate says if they sell tomorrow, they owe the bank $15,000 at closing, 12 years of monthly payments, and the exit costs money. Nate is quiet for a moment, then he says, "I thought the house was something I owned." Another pause. "It turns out the house owned me." You do not answer. There is nothing you can say that changes the math. That evening you sit in your apartment. Not the same one, the third in 12 years, but the same kind. One bedroom, clean walls, a desk by a window. Rent is $1,300. You sit down. You open the spreadsheet, the one you built at 26 in a kitchen where you could touch both walls. You scroll to the bottom. You add one final row. Year 12. Actual balance, $420,000. You scroll back to the top. The number you predicted 12 years ago, $395,000. The math was conservative. Time was generous. You sit there for a while. You think about Nate at 26, standing in that backyard saying, "I could see myself here." You think about the 87 light. You think about Ava and the cloth napkin. You think about your mother saying your father had a house by your age. You think about Jess in the car asking, "When do we talk about ours?" You think about your thumb hovering over Get Pre-Approved at 1 in the morning while the faucet dripped in the dark. The next day, the lease renewal arrives in your email. 12 months. Rent goes up $50. You sign it digitally. It takes 4 seconds. Nobody congratulates you. Nobody writes congrats. Nobody writes welcome to adulting. Nobody posts anything. But the silence is different now. 12 years ago, the silence meant nobody noticed your choice. Tonight, the silence means you no longer need anyone to. You close the spreadsheet. You do not send it to anyone. You do not take a screenshot. The number was never meant to be proof. It was never meant to answer your mother's question or impress a woman at a restaurant or win an argument with a coworker in an office kitchen. It was just the thing that kept you steady on all the mornings you woke up in a room that did not belong to you and chose to stay anyway. The apartment is quiet. The rent is due on the 1st. The transfer runs on the 1st. Everything you own fits through a door you do not own. And nothing, not a bank, not a mortgage, not a leaking roof, not a job you cannot leave because a house you cannot sell is in the way, Owns you. Maybe you are the person who has been renting the same apartment for years. Maybe you are the one secretly wondering if you should have bought by now. Maybe you are Nate. Either way, there is a question waiting in your lease and in your mortgage and in the silence between what the world tells you to buy and what you actually need. The question was never where you live. The question was, what owns you?